Modals, Chapters 9 and 10. Your trip to the Southwest, Native American Rock Art. Any visit to the southwestern states should include a trip to see the amazing rock art of the prehistoric Native Americans. The term rock art refers to two types of art forms: petroglyphs, which are carved into the rock, and pictographs, which are painted on the rock. In some national parks, you don't have to look far to find magnificent petroglyphs because they seem to be on just about every rock or cliff face. In other areas, you have to hike up to the caves or into canyons to see the rock art, but it is well worth the effort. Regardless of where you go, you ought to bring a camera to record these hauntingly beautiful images. We use must or have to express necessity. In other areas, you have to hike up to caves or into canyons to see the rock art. Can you see the rock art from your car? No. What is necessary to see the rock art? You have to leave the car and hike up to the caves or into canyons. We use don't have to when talking about lack of necessity. You don't have to look far to find magnificent petroglyphs because they seem to be on just about every rock or cliff face. Is it necessary to look far? No, you don't have to look far. Should and ought to are used to express advisability. You should see the rock art in New Mexico. You ought to see the rock art in New Mexico. Same meaning? Yes. You should see the rock art in New Mexico. You ought to see the rock art in New Mexico. Both mean it's a good idea to see the rock art. Write a sentence for each of the modals. Your sentences may be about what someone should or shouldn't or doesn't have to see in your country, or what they must see. The rock art spans thousands of years in an area that includes almost all of the United States and Mexico. However, the southwestern states contain an unusually high number of images, often clustered around old settlements. As you walk through these areas, you may find figures of people, animals, or plants carved into the rock. You can also see unique geometric patterns. What were these patterns supposed to represent? We may never know. The artist could have been illustrating rain or lightning, or they may have been trying to depict emotions such as joy or sadness. Whatever the meaning, the beauty they had intended to convey is plain to see. Use was, were, supposed to when talking about unknown or unfulfilled plans or expectations in the past. What were these patterns supposed to represent? Perhaps the rock art was supposed to tell a story. Do we know for sure? No. We have no idea of the purpose of the artist, so we can only guess. Progressive forms of modals express a possibility about something in progress, either now or in the past. If it's in the present tense, tense, then it's showing about the progress in the present, or if it's past, it's showing about something happening in progress in the past. The artist could have been illustrating rain. This is a past tense form of the modal could. When did the artist live? In the past. That means we use the have been. What were they doing? Illustrating rain. So we have our verb in the ing form. Are we certain? No, perhaps they were. That's why we use the modal could. Complete the sentences with the given verbs and an appropriate modal. More than one modal may be possible. Scientists can learn a lot by analyzing rock art from different areas. Look, those students are taking samples from the rocks. They must be studying the rock art. The park ranger was supposed to give a tour of the rock art today, but it's been canceled. As they carved the rock, the prehistoric artist might have been hoping people in the future would see their art. The reason why these prehistoric peoples created the rock art remains a mystery. Many scientists believe the artist must have created it for ceremonial purposes. Others think they may have created it as a form of language or to mark territorial claims. Some people have even speculated the rock art could depict visits from aliens or people from outer space. But most scientists don't think this is true. A much simpler explanation is that the rock art could just be the innocent drawings of ancient people. Whatever the reason, we may never know, given the long time period over which the rock art occurred and the vast geographic area where it can be found. Degrees of certainty, present time. The rock art must tell a story. The rock art could depict visits from aliens. Which one is more certain? Must. Must is more certain than may, might, or could. Must generally means that a person is 95% sure of what they are saying. May, might, or could is considered 50% sure or less. Degrees of certainty, past time. The artist must have created it for ceremonial purposes. We use to make the degrees of certainty in the past tense. In the past tense, we use the modal, have, and the past participle. Must have created. Others think they may have created it as a form of language. Which one is more certain? Must have created is more certain. Negative. In both present and past, the degrees of certainty for modals change, except for must, which is still about 95% sure that something didn't happen or won't happen. The rock art may not tell a story. The rock art couldn't depict visits from aliens. Which one is more certain? The rock art couldn't depict visits from aliens is more certain. If we use couldn't or can't, In the negative, we are 99% sure that something isn't happening or didn't happen. If we use must not, we are 95% sure. May not and might not mean 50% sure or less. The artist may not have wanted to tell a story. The artist couldn't have depicted visits from aliens. Use degrees of certainty modals to answer the questions in your own words. Many answers are possible. Why were the petroglyphs made? What did the geometric patterns mean? What is the most frequently seen image in the rock art? What image probably is not seen in the rock art? If you would like to, you may send me your answers to these questions via email on WebCT. The end.